sexy people, it is Dave, it is Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Bay Area Blackened heavy metal band NITE. The band's new album, Cult of the Serpent Sun, will be released on March 14th via Season of Mist. When darkness engulfs the world, NITE set...
I swear to God, I think we're going to break it to kill switch here. When darkness falls.
Come on, Howard. NITE sets the sky ablaze with white hot blackened heavy metal.
White hot blackened heavy. What are we doing here?
White
we're
hot.
just mixing metaphors. We're just inverting colours. Up is down, left is right. The sky is green, the grass is blue. Cats and dogs living together.
Having journeyed to the stars on their last venture, NITE now faces the abyssal and shadowy mythology that has long laid dormant beneath society. Each of the 8 epic battles on Cult of the Serpent Sun tests their mettle, but amidst the album's blackened perils, the band emerges victorious. NITE strives to be a light, says vocalist and guitarist Van Labrakis. Cult of the Serpent Sun is about how we persevere in the times of immense darkness. On Cult of the Serpent Sun, NITE wisely triples down on their trusty arsenal. Instead of scaling back, their third album adds more heft to the band's armour. The album's more is more philosophy is guided by what NITE have learned from the road. Since their last studio stint, the band have stormed the stage at Northwest Terrorfest, toured with fellow statesmen Persecutor and Haunt, and marched across the southwest on the road to Hell's Heroes. Fans really responded to older songs like Acheron and Genesis. Labrakis says Cult of the Serpent Sun has more songs that are fast and upbeat and help lift people's spirits. On Cult of the Serpent Sun, NITE guards the altar of blackened heavy metal with sharpened blades and axes raised. The album was recorded by the band's guitarist and vocalist Van Labrakis at 210 Studios San Francisco and The Hoagie Container, produced by Van Labrakis and NITE, then mixed and mastered by Van Labrakis. Busy guy. Okay, so we
a couple of things. I'm a broken individual, right? Because after hearing that press statement, I think that the best thing for your trusty arsenal is some blackened pearls. You lube those bad boys up, pop them in one at a time, and then pull them out like a chainsaw's ripcord.
This got CD awfully quick.
Hello.
We reviewed the previous album,
Yes.
Voices of the Cronian Moon, back in 2022.
Oh.
And yeah, I think if memory serves, I think I was slightly higher on that album than...
You were slightly higher, yes. That's a safe statement, Dave, because you know
higher
me,
and higher.
teetotaler.
Just like Scott Stapp says.
With arms wide open.
No, not with Arsenal.
All right. Sorry.
You could take me higher, is what I was going to say. Yeah, I think I was slightly higher on that album than everyone else. There was 4 of us on that review.
Jesus Christ.
And I think I came back to it quite a lot, actually. There was more than I thought I would. I kind of found that last album, I found it really... I don't know, it's weirdly kind of relaxing for me to listen to. Like, even though they're a kind of blackened band and kind of devilish, there's something in the kind of darkness of the band's sound and the vocals that put me in a calm state for some reason. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. However, that was 3 years ago, and now we're back with Cult of the Serpent Sun. So I'm interested to see how you got on with it. If you preferred this one, or you preferred the last one, or how you feel with this new release from NITE.
So I can't even remember what I scored the last one.
Right.
So, to me, this could be better, it could be worse, depending
Blank slate.
on...
We're just starting from scratch here, Duncan.
Cleaning the slate. Wiping it clean.
Wipe it.
Yeah. With arms wide open. Use my Blackened Perils. So I will be honest, this finished the first time for me, and I was like this.
Right. Okay.
Now, in the audio medium, what Duncan is doing right now is a perplexed look, a pondering face staring off into the distance. Whimsical, yet at the same time puzzled. Right. That's kind of where I was. I got to the end and I was like, huh, right. Not sure it all works for me, but there is some things I enjoyed. So that's my hook, right? So I've got my hook in it. We're going to take a couple of days. Yeah. I'm going to go off and listen to some other stuff. Sure. I'm going to come back to it. Come back to it and see if it's moved. Second listen, I got to the end of it, liked it less than the first listen. Like, oh dear.
What?
That's not a good sign. So it wasn't even like a whimsical look. It was kind of like a more kind of frustrated look. Because, once again, those elements I liked, interestingly enough, not the elements I liked on the first listen, like other stuff. So I went from really enjoying the music and not really liking the vocals, and then flipped on the second listen to loving the vocals and kind of indifferent on the music. Parked it, right? I was like that. This is a day of recording listen, right? And that was listen number 3.
All right.
You know, that however I feel on listen number 3 is where we're going.
It's all or nothing. Yeah.
Listen number 3 turned into listen number 4.
Right.
Turned into listen number 5. I listened to this 3 times today.
Okay.
And liked all 3. So we kind of it all came together. I don't know what was going on in the first listen. I also don't know what was going on in the second listen. I can speculate. My speculation is that I love the music, but I found the vocal technique to be not at odds with it, but the sort of thing that on music like this is a technique that vocalists will do in an interlude or an intro, but not a whole song, yet a whole album. I think that frustrated me on the first listen. The second time around, like, musically, it was a lot of what I'd heard before, not because I'd heard the album before, but musically, the band aren't necessarily, like, reinventing the riff, so to speak. Sure. And actually, the element that stood out most for me was the vocals that time around, where I was like, actually, this is a really cool technique. I don't know what I was thinking 3 days ago. And the marriage, the unholy communion of the two came together on today, essentially. I got to the end of the kind of third listen, which was this morning. It was a little bit like over my morning coffee, my first coffee of the day, with Cult of the Serpent Sun blaring in my ears. I was like, it is gelling. It's actually those two elements, because here's my thought on the band, right? I may have already said this before in the previous review. If I have, I am reiterating it. If I haven't, then it's a new revelation for me. Okay. You take either element out of this band. So you put like just your standard kind of old school power metal vocal over the top of NITE. Instantly a not interesting band to me, right? If you put kind of blackened guitar riffs without vocals, instantly not interesting to me. The two elements need to coexist in the fashion that they're in order for it to work for me. Right? So what you get here is, like, neither side is necessarily remarkable. I've heard plenty of bands do this before. But I don't think I've ever heard a band play that kind of old school kind of metal, but with that kind of reverby blackened vocals. If I have, they're not bands I return to often. And that's what kind of elevates their sound. Like, this is as traditional metal band you will get in terms of its sound, its execution. And what I kind of love about it is that kind of they're like a more aggressive Ancient Wisdom. You know, I remember listening to Ancient Wisdom and it was all kind of pagan-y and kind of like esoteric and occulty, but at the same time the music was relatively conventional. But that was the element that made it shine. Kind of the same thing that NITE's doing here. Musically, it follows a lot of the formulas. You will predict exactly when a slow chug will come in. You know exactly when the guitar solo's in. Chances are you may even know roughly what the guitar solo will sound like before the first string's plucked. because it evokes something very traditional. If you've grown up listening to metal, you know the vibe.
Yeah.
And they never really put a foot wrong at all musically on this. Like, it kind of... There's something comforting about something that is predictable when it sticks the landing, and every track sticks the landing here.
Yeah.
Like, it would be different if they, like, all of a sudden you got, like, an electronic boom, and then everything dropped, like, fucking 2 octaves. Like, they don't do that. They stick very much to the handbook, and as a result, it delivers a kind of sense of satisfaction when you get through it. Vocally, the smart thing to do here is actually not do what I originally said, which is use this as a spoken word technique at the start or an interlude. It's actually lean into it because it's what makes him really interesting. He's got a tone in his voice which probably wouldn't suit a traditional metal sound anyway. It's on a deeper register. Like, the sort of music they're playing demands a kind of like higher vocal. He doesn't. If he does do it, he's not doing it here. So actually that really works, and the kind of introduction of that kind of blackened reverb that sits around it gives it a kind of much more kind of in the cavern by the wood, the creepy spirit lacks. You know, it's that sort of thing. I really like it. It's theatrical. You know, it's kind of, it evokes, dare I say, a band like Ghost. It evokes that idea of, I imagine these guys coming out in druidic robes. They might not, but in my mind they do. I imagine like smoke machines going off and a mini Stonehenge a la fucking Spinal Tap being brought in. I imagine that about their sound because there's something very theatrical about it. Production wise, this is spot on. Like, even when it wasn't gelling with me, production wise, this is spot on. Like, the guitar is about as clean a guitar as you'll hear this year. It's produced fucking perfectly. Like, every nuance, every little twitch on a string, every pitch bend, every pitch harmonic is all just really, really, really good. The drums have punch, power, and are traditionally recorded. That big kind of meaty, like, traditional sound there. And it's got solos and riffs for days. You know what I mean? And you know, it's surprisingly not detuned that much either. It's nice, clean, and vibrant. And then, like I say, the fact that we go all in on that vocal performance really works with it as well. So you're getting something that's grubbier and darker against the grain there. It's kind of what makes it sound, dare I say, a little bit evil. In terms of the actual songs themselves, there's nothing remarkable here. And I kind of have to stress that NITE are playing specifically to the kind of tried, tested, well-trodden rulebook of traditional metal. But that kind of is what I like. Once you've listened to this once, you kind of just want that. You kind of want more of it, to be honest. So I don't know. You were saying that they've said that this is kind of more upbeat. It is. Like, it was like, there's like, when you listen to tracks like The Mystic, I can imagine Conan the Barbarian on a horse, you know, like chasing down fucking James Earl Jones and his snake arrows. Like, there's something like just hugely kind of massive about it, kind of powerful and pushy and energetic, and there's not really a minor chord on here. It all sounds really cheery, which once again juxtaposed with those vocal stylings is kind of a smart move. So actually, by the end of the fifth listen, I like this. I like this a lot. Do I think it's brilliant? No. Do I think it fulfills the brief? Yes. I don't think they actually put a foot wrong here. I just don't necessarily hear. I hear combined a sound which sounds different than its component parts. But its component parts are very traditional and have been done a lot. That's not to say they're boring. They're spinning, it's kind of smart. It's another album, we've already spoken about one tonight, which is under the 40-minute mark. It's the perfect length for this. This is one that, when it finishes on Winds of Sokar, you know what I mean? It finishes and you're like, that, cool, right, great, we're done here. So yeah, I like... Will I be rushing back to listen to this again? I will definitely listen to this before the year is out again. Maybe once or twice. Don't know if I'd rush back to listen to it, but the 3 listens I did back to back today kind of all really worked for me. first two didn't, and like I say, I'm not entirely sure why it didn't all connect.
Yeah.
On those first two, but yeah, it's hard to say something negative about an album that does pretty much everything right. And the thing that I'm throwing at it is any sort of shade or any sort of criticism is that they're not necessarily doing anything the other bands haven't already done many times over for decades. So, which in itself is it's a negative, but they're not doing it badly. I've heard plenty of bands do this sort of stuff and sound fucking shit. NITE are not that way at all. They sound very, very accomplished in what they bring out. I'm like, so you were higher on the previous album, you think?
Yeah.
This one is a sea change in tonality, being a little more upbeat. So you're doing a curious face. Is this the press trying to tell me that this is different? Or is it actually, like, hit us with it, Daddy-O?
A little bit. I wouldn't say that this is not a NITE venturing into uncharted territory here.
This is not a NITE today, is what you're telling me.
No, this is not. This is still a Blackened heavy metal album that ticks a lot of the same boxes the last album had. They haven't really taken any real risk here, which, they could have, and that could have fallen short. They could have alienated like their fan base. They've opted to come back with another album of what they do. It's catchy. It's fist pumping. It's Blackened bangers. Just like fist pumping Blackened bangers. Also sounds
Blackened
like
bangers, the way I would describe barbecue Dave's.
Oh, I was going to say
You've
categories.
overcooked those sausages, Dave.
I was going to say categories on Pornhub, but anyway, moving on. Yeah,
Blackened Bangers 5. I'm sure I've seen it.
Yeah, like the previous album, this doesn't overrun at all, like by a minute. Like they know exactly where the cutoff point is. Just under 37 minutes, and every track kind of thunders along, providing a very like head-bangable journey through this album. Okay, there may be a couple of tracks here that feel slightly more upbeat than on Voices of the Cronian Moon. I did pick up little hints of like bands like Duncan or even like Herman Frank on occasion. And some of the solos as well do like lift the mood on the release. As you said, they stick to a more major key. But there is always that kind of streak of darkness that coats this album that can instantly switch the kind of temperament of the release. Skull is a great example of that kind of tipping point that they kind of carefully balance. Just, they seamlessly kind of maneuver between the kind of light and dark, depending on where the track goes. Crow, Fear of the Night, however, is probably one of my favourite moments on the release. Imagine Rocky Balboa, right, was making his long walk to the ring, and his walkout music is just blaring over the speakers, right? But instead of the oiled up, shredded torso that he has in the movies, he's a goth, right?
It's Vars Vikernes for no reason at all.
He's big gothy Balboa, right? This would be...
Man, that's a side project. As his side project. Oh, man.
This would be the perfect walkout song for him, right? It's an anthem. And I fucking loved it. I played the absolute shit out of that track. It's got a groove that just gets the foot stomping. The riff is chuggy and it's charged, and they just continue to lift the whole way through, in the best possible way, just to get you amped. Killer track. I can see why they released it as a single. It's awesome. The closing track, actually, Wings of Sokar, had a kind of similar feel. It does also have some kind of that kind of there's a bit of hope, a bit of light here about this track. That kind of feeling of striving for something greater, and it gives a very uplifting finish to the album. But then there's also moments that will pull you the other way and into that more kind of death-like kind of atmosphere, and filled with symbolism and metaphors and touching on things like nuclear war, like they do on The Last Blade. where a mysterious blade holds the power to bring about the world's end. So that kind of shit, you're getting into the kind of darker side.
I said, I want the knife.
Please. So they've given you like plenty of variation on that front, and I think the running order reflects a very well thought out structure, and you can hear that there is a difference between the first half and the second. So they're obviously aware of the old vinyl flip, and given like each side of the album almost like a kind of different arc, if you know what I mean. You're right. Vocally, I think for me, like vocally is where the band are just kind of in their own lane, and I said it in the last review as well. I love the vocals. It was a thing that kind of grabbed me on that previous album. That was the first time I'd heard NITE before. The vocals are just so distinct. Like as soon as you hear them, you're like, what the fuck? And like I totally get it. They might not be for everyone. I can imagine some might not like the nature of these vocals. Absolutely, but for me, Van Labrakis has a tone and a character that I instantly recognize. Like his register, his delivery, it makes this for me. Like this, without them, this wouldn't be the same. Like, and a lot of that.
Fairly sure Gotti Balboa fought him in Rocky 7.
Van Labrakis, yeah.
Yeah, come on. What are we doing here?
Totally, yeah. And yeah, most of that is kind of like personal preference. I kind of like yourself, I don't tend to be a fan of the kind of higher register heavy metal style. That the kind of Iron Maiden kind of wail just it doesn't kind of do it for me. But band style is much more like collected and kind of mysterious. Like it's a total vibe vocal. Like he's got an absolute vibe. And as I said, it kind of soothes me. His voice, I don't know what it is, but I just feel calm when I'm listening to it.
How did your parents sing nursery rhymes to you? Into the shadows. Fucking yes, do the shadows story, da.
Yeah, like his vocal hasn't really changed all that much since the previous release.
It broke.
No, I know. There's maybe there was small moments I was like, okay, there's maybe slightly more kind of tone on certain kind of vocal lines. It's or like he'll move like a smidge up register wise, but it's like very marginal. But yeah, it works. Like he knows when to give it more rasp or add in more of a kind of hook. And like the whole time I was listening to this, I was like, I'm just picturing him in a studio with a leather jacket and a pair of sunglasses, just recording his vocals. That's the kind of vibe. Like he's just a cool cat, I think, just like one of those guys.
And he's recording it himself, so I mean, literally just like that. Presses record, runs into the booth, puts on the sunglasses, then does the vocals. Sunglasses comes off, runs it, hits stop.
Then does he talk to himself as well? That was a great take, Van. Great take.
If you're recording yourself, is it okay to say at the end of it, that was a good take? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I can't say anything here really like surprised me on this release. I think if you're a fan of NITE and enjoy what they do, this is another album of fairly simple but effective songs that kind of just have you tapping your foot, nodding your head along with the whole release. I think maybe one thing that caught my ear more on this release was the lead work. I felt like
it's really good. His guitar work is
like
awesome.
Tracks like The Mystic just showcase some really like epic lead work from Van Labrakis, Scott Hoffman are the two guitarists. I'm not sure who takes the kind of baton on which part, but some of the choices melodically were just really clever. Really enjoyed that. Sometimes it is quite traditional. You can hear them paying homage to that style, the kind of heavy metal style in a big way, that kind of shreddy more style. But then other times they get a bit more intimate, or they'll alter the kind of mood or the kind of tone of the track, particular direction. Sometimes there's more than one lead part at the same time, where you get that kind of big dual harmony, which really kind of brings the tracks home. Production as well, very in keeping with the previous album. As I've said, it was done in-house by Van Labrakis, and he's got that. That's locked in at this point. He knows exactly how he wants these albums to sound. He hasn't fucked with the formula on Cult of the Serpent Sun. And the production value is like very consistent throughout the NITE kind of back catalogue of albums. He knows exactly what he's doing. Yeah, not much more else to say other than I enjoyed this just as much as the previous album. They have a sound, they have a blueprint. Hasn't really changed all that much in this release. So if you like you liked Voices of the Cronian Moon, chances are you'll probably like this as well. Okay, final thing, scores for Cult of the Serpent Sun. What do you think? What's your scoring for this?
So I don't know what I scored the previous one, so this could be better, it could be worse. Okay. I don't know. I'd give this a 4. Like, yeah. Like my initial first listen, I was maybe sitting about a 3. My second listen, I was maybe sitting about a 3.
Yeah.
When it all got brought together, and by the end of that third listen today, I was in a position where I was like I said, there is absolutely nothing musically that I can pick this apart from at all. Yeah, it's a good listen, so I'd give it a 4.
Yeah, nice. I'm pretty sure you've come up. I'm sure you were either a 3 or 3.5 in the last one. Yeah, I'm a 4 in this one as well. Just very solid release. These guys know what they're doing. They do it very well. Great production. Plenty of like kind of anthemic tracks again from NITE. I kind of like to see this band live. I feel like they would be a really good time. Like just very like fist in the air type live show. So if they are coming over to the UK or Scotland, then I would definitely go along and check them out. So that is NITE, the new album Cult of the Serpent Sun, out on March 14th via Season of Mist. Links below, above, wherever you're checking this video out. Have a wee listen, see what you think, and let us know. Put some comments in. That is a review. Thank you for checking out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.